I would like to call together the Monday, May 6th, 2019 meeting of the City of Monona Finance and Personnel Committee. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder Kitzler.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the April 15th meeting?
Move to approve. Second.
Any corrections, additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. There are no appearances. There is no unfinished business. Under new business, item 6A, consideration of ordinance 5-19-716, amending the Code of Ordinances regarding false building alarms. Is there a motion to approve this?
Move approval. Second.
Someone?
Yeah,
Brian?
Mayor and members of the committee, this is a pretty straightforward ordinance, basically a little bit of housekeeping. When we did the recodification back in 2017, a piece of the ordinance related to police fire calls was inadvertently removed from the ordinance. We still had in our code the fire alarm ordinance in place. So basically what this is doing is just putting back in the police ordinance, false alarm, and then it has associated with it on the second page of the ordinance the fees related to the false alarms, and again they're the same cost as it is for any sort of fire false alarm. This was reviewed by the Public Safety Committee and was recommended for approval, so we bring it to you.
Any questions? No? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 6B, consideration of resolution 19-5-2353, approval of electric distribution facilities relocation agreement for Bridge Road reconstruction project. Is there a motion to approve this?
Move to approve. Second.
This item is related to the second item on the agenda on 6C as well. Basically, this first item is asking for approval to go forward with the undergrounding of electric utilities associated with the Bridge Road project. As we noted in the fiscal note, this was an item that was contemplated back in 2012 with the project plan for the TIF district. And this would just allow us to move forward with that as we're doing the work here this summer. The second item that we'll get to in just a moment is capital budget amendment. Just asking for an increase of a little over $5,000 for the overall undergrounding of utilities under Bridge Road. And that's in part because when we established the estimates about a year or so ago, estimates came back in just a little bit higher. Some were lower, some were higher. MG&E was a little bit higher. Charter and I forget the other one came in a little bit lower. So it's just the net difference is about $5,000 to complete all of that work.
Okay. Are there any questions about the first item?
Yeah, I do.
Doug?
So after the electric lines are undergrounded, who will have the maintenance? I assume MG&E will have the full maintenance responsibility, and even if there were, increased costs because it's underground, they would have to still bear that.
That's correct.
Anything else? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, 19-5-2354. Capital budget amendment amending the 2019 capital budget to complete private utility undergrounding on Bridge Road.
Yeah, and again, just to clarify, our original...
Is there a motion to approve?
Yep, sorry.
First of all.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, go on.
Just to clarify, again, in the capital budget plan for last year, we had bucketed about $410,000. Cost came in a little bit higher than that at $4,015. So there's an increased request of $5,756 to get us to that number.
Questions? I had a question. I'm just wondering, up on the financial sheet, the fiscal note, it says funding to complete this work would come from TID 9, and then below it looks like we're transferring money from the library HVAC project?
The overall...
So you're saying all the rest of it is TID 9?
Yes.
And
Yep. The 5,700, that'll come from the savings in HVAC.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is the financial report. Mr. Hotaker.
I have a hard copy, so I just want to go by what I have. So there's some numbers at the very bottom. We start going into after the very first kind of cover page. So this is basically the first quarter's report. There's some. It's hard to get a good feel on some of the accounts that kind of happen during the summertime. We're kind of our more areas that are more it's worrisome to me. But at page 1, which is on license and permits, currently we had building permits all the way through the zoning permits. We're at basically 50,000 out of 97,000 budget, so we're 52% where we should be at 25%. So we are on target to be over budget for this year. This is probably the last year this is going to happen, where so basically some of these big permits right now are still coming in from the 2 riverfront projects. So they're just pulling some of the bigger ones because they don't pull all at once. They'll pull when they start working on HVAC or plumbing or something like that. So Avid's kind of pulling theirs. So we have another big project starting next year. I would assume this will be scaled back a little bit next year with that. Page 2, I guess we'll have to be, sorry, my contacts I can barely see for some reason. I must be, like I need different type of lenses or something. Interest income.
That's kind of worrying.
Interest income, as you see, we're way under budget. We are going to be way over budget at the end. We're already 100% of our budget. These were the big balances we had because of the tax revenues coming in, so they will subside a little bit. We'll probably be at 200,000 by year end or a little bit over that. Rent and leases, it looks like we're only at 11% right now. The reason why it's on target is some of those cell towers, this would be the cell towers on top of the water towers. Some only pay one time a year, some pay monthly, but the big ones usually come around June or sometime here in May. So that number will balloon up here fairly soon. It's just a timing issue of when people pay, some are one-time payments. So revenue-wise, just for the general fund, we will be over budget by the end of the year based on the interest income, and that will take an effect next year. We'll have to adjust some of those things for next year. Kind of page, where is it? Some of the areas that kind of concerns a little bit. Page 6.
I think I had a question about page 5.
Sure.
Under data processing software programming services, what does that cover?
That would be our
Is
IT
that,
support people.
that is the IT support,
Yeah.
okay. And they just haven't,
Just timing of the bills being paid.
Okay.
But I've looked at the current months, like April and May, that they're basically on target where we're supposed to be.
okay.
So page 6, as you know, the assessments of properties. Everybody just kind of had or open book. So this will be, they'll have their one final payment coming up here by probably June or so, and that contract is completed. So there will be an RFP coming out here, talking about pretty soon. So that will be adjusted to next year's budget. General buildings and plants. Just going to be a common theme probably for a while with repair and maintenance services. We're kind of at 52% what we budgeted. 4,100 was just for the heater and boiler repairs and changing filters out. So it was needed, but so that item will be over budget, I assume, by end of the year. With that,
Mark, before you leave that page, I had a question back on the assessment, the assessor.
sure.
New contract, I guess. Will that be done by staff choosing the new assessor, or how will that, the ultimate will have to do it?
That's a fair question. I guess I'd ask how we've done other similar RFPs in the past. My goal would be within the next couple months to have a draft RFP ready to go out. Have that out this summer, get responses back before probably end of August, which would give us sufficient time to make our selection and let whatever firm we select give them enough time before we get to kind of the January schedule. So I'm open to suggestions on how you want. If
Yeah.
you want a committee, this body to review it, that's fine.
Not necessarily. It just occurred to me that maybe some of the board of review members might want to give input or might have some input. I don't know.
Okay.
Joan might know better or would know better.
I don't believe they've ever been asked in the past, but I'm sure that if you asked, probably they would have an opinion, but some of them haven't been through any other assessor than the current one, so.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Page 8, fire protection. Fire paid on premise. It's a good thing to have, but we are at basically 44% of our budget. Just based on projection, what I know for April already, we're probably going to be about, just in that line item right there, we'll probably be about $13,000 over budget. Just more people are using the paid on premise.
Do you know why that is? We just have different people who are more able to do that, or?
I think there was a change in his philosophy, even towards the end of last year. I think he changed his philosophy. I think they had to work, so many people had to work paid on premise. I believe like the,
Oh, now, some of the older ones didn't, I guess, did they?
Yeah.
Is that,
yeah, but I think there's more people, is it the, I don't know what the levels are, but the higher levels, are, I think they have to work so many, do many paid on premises or overnights.
I guess on that point though, I mean, we've kind of gone through this before where, you know, it's up to Scott to manage the budget and like how many hours is he gonna give, how many people is he gonna pay for paid on premise?
Sure, yeah.
And if it's gonna go way over budget, he needs to come to us for a budget amendment.
Okay, I'll talk.
I guess I know the goal, I think, is to try to have 3 people available at any given time, isn't it?
That's their wish.
So does he ever have more than one paid on premise person there at a given time?
That I don't know offhand, I'll have to.
Because I would think that would be a logical question to
Yeah.
ask.
Yep.
I would think we'd prefer to have one, if we had 2 regular
Yeah.
firefighter
Right.
paramedics
Right, yeah.
scheduled, and then have
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
paid on premise guy there,
So I'll talk
not
to them.
4 or whatever, or, you know.
Um,
Anything else about that?
No.
Just one little thing I'll hit on inspections. I know I have some time, so I'm kind of going slow.
Yeah, that's okay.
Inspection services, it's just so everybody aware of, you know, right now they get paid per hour. One of the things that we ran into, we did the, right now it works out in our favor because of the large projects. I do think that's something we need to probably maybe look in the future if the projects do fall off. We'll probably be paying more than what we're coming in. That was kind of the issues when we went to this last time, when we went to the services, because the other option was they would take like 80 or 90% of the revenue fees. So it's something we might have to look into in the future.
Yeah.
This year it's fine because we are making big permits coming in.
Which is part of the reason we went this route this year, right? Yeah.
Correct. That's yep.
Is that a yearly contract, or does it just go on
Currently it's just renewed. I mean, there's just
until we
unless
choose
one of us
to?
terminates it one way or the other.
Okay. It's something to look at in the budget, definitely.
I'm sorry, like I said, my eyes again. Page 10, I just want to hit this, it's snow and overtime and ice services, just in case you're looking at wise. The overtime shows 0 amount for the overtime for snow and ice at $12,000. And then snow and ice salaries, just the regular salaries, are over by $8,000. There was a coding issue. All the overtime was getting coded to the snow and ice regular salaries. So it will be corrected, but it was a bad winter. As you can see, snow equipment maintenance repairs are over, and so is the salt ice supplies. Or we're basically 85%. We still have next November and December if it's bad. So it's one thing to watch coming up. So if I go to page, I'm going to jump to kind of further down the line, page 17, unless somebody else has something in between there. which would be community rec services funds. So this is the area that I think, these are the rec funds, Jake's funds, that I think we're going to be projected to be under budget, but it's one of those things I don't have a good handle on until we kind of get into the summer here. I do need to work with Jake here. I think we have some issues right now where they're coding to the wrong account, so we'll get that fixed. But as you can see, after-school program fees right now have 0. So that right now is being coded right now in the recreation program fees. So me and him are working to get that ironed out, just to make sure we can reallocate that, to make sure it's in the proper account. But
What page are you on, Mark?
on page 17, the bottom, page 17.
So are you saying that all the fees the parents are paying for their kids are going into the wrong line?
Right now, they're going to the wrong line. We'll get it corrected.
Okay.
But there's one area I think is to see that's rec program is the hardest one to gauge because it's up and down. It's harder to just to look at. So it's harder to kind of get into it to figure out where that's going. The one area of concern would be the community center rental fees. I put there. I think we're going to just based on what we were last year towards the end of the year, what we were getting, and kind of what we're getting for this year already. We're at 11%. We should be at 25%. This number is something it's going to be under budget. I'd say it's good, probably a good $6,000 to $8,000 under budget. So, we talk about those savings and the extra revenue and the permits and the interest income. It's kind of, it's going to offset some of these expenses. But so it's not like we're making extra money in that. I think there's some areas here will kind of balance out. But,
Mark, on the community center rental fees, do they still have the contract with the church?
yes, they did.
I don't know how much that is.
I don't know how much offline here.
You'd think that'd be almost all of it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
Maybe not all.
I can get that number for the next time we do this.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to know how many like Saturday evening events they've had, or Friday or whatever,
Yeah, we can.
or if this is
Yeah.
99% attributable to the church. I know there was the trivia contest there, and there was that dance, but they probably, I don't know if they were charged a fee.
I don't know if it's the after school take up some of that stuff, and I think, I don't know if the billings, I know Jake's always saying the billing not desirable, some of their spots right now, so I'm sure he'd give you a whole list of that.
I'm sure he could.
Would be interesting, yeah, because there's a lot of them right down. And he doesn't seem concerned about it.
Of course, a lot of these fees are just now being paid for
They're just
summer.
starting, so
Right.
that's the concern, is trying to project them right now is kind of hard. But I always want to make sure everybody's aware that that's one area of concern.
What is Park Fiend rental?
What's that?
Line 251.
Oh, it's supposed to be Parkfield.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Somebody were keeping
That one
it
usually,
somewhere.
that starts slow. Now we get the rentals for the soccer fields, baseball fields, so those, and the tennis
Okay.
courts. So that one should be a little low right now, and then it'll come on strong later on. Then the next page, the expenses, the community center expenses. Again, kind of like with the city hall building, building maintenance and repairs are basically at 44%. They put a bunch of new filters in. It was $1,800 for these new filters.
What page are you on, Mark?
The next page, page
18?
Yep.
Okay.
Active net fees, that's the credit card fees that we pay for. We'll have to adjust the next year's budget. And that will be a little bit over budget towards the end.
That's just a percentage, it's not a solid.
It's not no, it's a percentage. And we just switched systems too, so it's one of those things that it's supposed to be cheaper with the new system, so that's why I'm not projecting to be a lot over budget. I think it's supposed to be a lot cheaper. Page 20, EMS Fund. Ambulance Fund. ambulance fees right now, we're at 21%. I'm not concerned about that. It's because January is probably the lowest month we had in a long time. But March and February were 2 large months. So just based on that and kind of looking at here for April and May, we'll be right on target. So it looks a little low right now, but at 21%, but we'll be fine on that. Page 22, which is the solid waste disposal fund rebate program. I think we kind of mentioned this before. We kind of went through the bills. This is an area of concern. I know Dan's talked about a little bit about this. Right now, we're getting 0 for rebates, basically for newspapers. So that will be an issue at the end of the year.
We're getting 0 on newspapers or 0?
0's on the newspaper portion of it. We still get this 5. You see, the period actually today is actually 2 months worth, or 3 months. 2 months, so it's still get about $2,500 per month, which is lower than what we usually get. So that's kind of, I think, all the stuff that I kind of had. Unless you had questions for other funds. Capital again is just starting too, so that we'll know a little bit more of that. But so far we're okay today.
What does the current fund balance stand at?
I don't remember offhand, but I believe it's still about 25% or so.
Okay.
There will be some savings too for right now. You know, we talked about the rec fund, and the park fund. You know, we've been without some employees right now too, so there will be some savings there too that I forgot to mention. So, like, I believe they just finally hired a park position is refilled finally, and the building maintenance. I think they just got their applications in, so they'll be interviewing for that here. So there is savings there too.
And then we had the planner position too.
Yes. So there's some other savings. So it's not like I'm trying to be negative.
Questions, anyone? Do we need to vote to accept this? Typically, Joan, do you know? Or-
Usually there is, because it's, let's see. You know, there isn't any action.
I mean, we accept the bills. I didn't know if we should accept the financial report.
There
too.
isn't,
I think
it
it would make
isn't
sense.
listed as
Okay.
as an action, but you certainly could. It doesn't,
Okay, well,
Hurt.
would someone like to make a motion to accept it?
I'll move to accept the financial report.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item is acceptance of general fund accounts payable checks dated April 12th through May 2nd, 2019. Documentation of invoices paid is available in the city clerk's office.
So in my, I don't have the computer, so I'm just using my hard copy here. So when you start the first invoice register, there's a page number at the very top, so I can use that as my number, like page 1, and then just page 2. So page 2 of A&1 Electric is the Generate project, which is, I believe this is probably the final bill for that project. That was kind of a 2018 capital project that had some delays in it, so we're finishing up here in 2019. Down to Amazon, you can see what we purchased there, but these are most of these are libraries, but there's one for storytelling grant. This is paid out of their donation account. It's that $1,300. And underneath that, Enterprise, that's just your capital projects for tasers. Also on page 3, Core and Main, we do have capital projects for the hydrant replacement program. This was just a carryover from last year's, finishing up on this last little bit of the project. Page 5. Starts Monona Bank, so this is our credit card system. We do get, I think we just got money back just recently from the credit card system. We get, I think it was $300 we just received back a refund for using the credit cards. So we, with the bank, it goes into our miscellaneous revenue. Page 10, Carico Aquatics Resources. Summer Water Management Program. This is our pool program. So, we're getting ready for the pool. So this is the start of the season for that. The maintenance getting it ready for service. I'm going to jump ahead all the way to page 20 if anybody has anything else in between. Just Axie Burleson. Just some of the things they're winding down on, working on for the month for legal fees.
I had one on 17.
Sure.
Verbiture Associates for Interlake Drive House rebuilding, is that for
Yeah, I think that-
$500? What is that?
There's an application, I believe it's a site plan review for a property at 700 Interlake that's
Oh.
going through ZBA, I think next week.
Okay, and we're hiring
So-
Verbicer to,
Yeah. So we basically so a lot of projects like there, you see this notice of 100-13100. That's an accounts receivable account.
mhm.
So we bill them, we do a service, and we
Oh, and
Charge
then they,
charge back the time.
okay.
they have to provide us basically a $5,000 escrow account.
Oh,
Where we
okay,
do services for these.
okay.
It was on page 22. GEC, Gender Engineering Company. As you can see, winding down, new planners here. So the last month of March for planning, as you can see, this inspection services are, a lot of that's related to the riverfronts. That's why it's so high there too. Planning services was really low. It was 687 for the month of March. It was a slow month, and the guy we hired, I think he did a really good job. I think working, remotely, not charging us by driving, and he did a really good job
That's
working
good.
for us. He was page 24, Madison Met Sewage District. This is our quarterly payment. Basically $205,000 for the first quarter. I think we budget over $800,000, so I think we're basically right around 25% where we should be. And page 26, I'm just winding down here with Strain Associates. A lot of it's just what they're working on for us right now, and they are also winding down some of the projects of Riverfront and stuff. Underneath that, Struck and Irwin, Huska Park. It's a little bit of, as you can see, park for the fence repair at Huska Park. Kind of we talked about there, and just went through the financials. Those repairs and maintenance add up after a while, and that's a lot of times the unexpected stuff that just adds up.
Just to interject, that will be reimbursed by insurance.
Oh, that one is?
Yeah, it's a car damage.
Oh, okay, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll be reimbursed.
The fence repair will be?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we drove into it.
It wasn't me.
That's all I have, unless you have questions. Sorry.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to accept the bills?
Move to accept the bills.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Wow.
Brett.